Looking for magic cards? At flipsidegaming.com you can now use the promo code LVD to get a 10% discount on orders over $10 while supporting the channel at the same time. And we opened a pretty good rare here. Shalai, definitely one of the top rares in the set. What else do we have? We've got a Knight of Malice, which is quite strong for a 2-drop. We've got Grun, which is very good as well. We've got a Pegasus Courser, which is one of the premium commons. Another good commons include Journey Mage. Llanowar Elves is always great, and we have also got a Caligo Skinwitch, which is one of the important cards you need to learn to play around in Dominaria draft. When your opponent's playing black and you're in kind of the late game, make sure to keep 2 lands in hand in case you want to protect one of the cards in your hand from a Skinwitch. But yeah, I think Shalai is a pick here. Not too close, but I would be happy first picking these uncommons as well. Courser's still fine first pick. Llanowar Elves a bit less, but still okay. Journey Mage I wouldn't be excited to first pick. Skinwitch also wouldn't be excited to first pick, but they're still fine cards. So let's take a Shalai. And we open the good common removal spell in white here, Blessed Light. 5 mana removal in Dominaria. A bit better than it is in Guilds of Ravnica, to give you kind of a metric, since the format tends to be a little bit slower. Not that Ravnica is blazing fast, but you've got fewer Boros decks to contend with, so 5 mana removal is still fine, and especially one that exiles. The Immolating Inferno, these legendary sorceries, are usually not very good, since they require you to have a legendary creature or planeswalker in play, which is kind of difficult to set up. So I'm not a fan of picking these legendary sorceries very highly. Skizzik is okay, nothing special. And what else do we have in the pack? Not much. There's like a Journey Mage for the Wizard deck, a Drake for any blue deck. It's a fine card. But it's a pretty easy Blessed Light to follow up our Shalai. And what did we open here? Alright, we're still seeing some okay white cards. Gideon's Reproach is okay removal. Not as good as a Blessed Light, but still fine. There's an Aven Sentry, which is a okay flyer in white. Bodyguard's reasonable, nothing exciting. The ability doesn't come up a whole lot, but I mean, sometimes you play it on turn 1 and it gets in for 4 damage. Sometimes it can protect when your bomb's late. But I think I would still hedge towards one of the commons over the Bodyguard here. And looking in other colors, we've got a Deathbloom Thallid and a Skinwitch, both pretty solid black cards. So it could be a sign that black is pretty open as well. Not too excited about any of the other cards here. So I don't really see a reason to take one of the black cards when the white cards are fine. Doesn't commit us to a second color, plus if we could end up in green for Shalai, that would be ideal. So it's between the Reproach and the Sentry. I think I still like Reproach. It's not like removal is all that plentiful, so getting your hands on a cheap one like Reproach is always nice. Sentry, while good, is definitely still replaceable. So let's take Reproach. And now we're seeing a pretty late Scaring Surveyor, also one of the premium commons in the set, just because mana fixing is not all that plentiful, especially if you're not in green. So having a Scaring Surveyor is always kind of a built-in 2-for-1. It's a 1/2 body that draws a land, essentially, and fixes your mana if you're trying to splash certain cards. So it's a totally fine card. Looking further in the pack, we've got a Dark Bargain, which I'm definitely a fan of. Not much else, so there's a Dark Bargain, a Keldon Raider, and a Surveyor. Gaia's Protector, not a fan unless you can combine it with like a first strike effect, like a Jousting Lance or a Dub. But it's pretty all-in for my tastes, so Surveyor seems good here. Stay mono-white, but now we've got a reason to jump into another color, since Cloud Reader Sphinx is great. One of my favorite commons in the set. Whenever I see one, I have to find a reason not to take it. There's a Sergeant at Arms in white, which is a totally playable card, but definitely not close in power level to the Cloud Reader Sphinx. So I'm very happy to take a second color, just to have the added power level of the Sphinx here. There's some good black cards too. Skinwitch is, again, totally fine. Fungal Infection is a good card too, but they don't really come close to the Cloud Reader Sphinx. Alright, let's take a Sphinx. So we're kind of giving up on maybe the green for Shalai's ability, but we'll see. And here a Mesa Unicorn's a pretty good 2-drop. Bit of lifelink if you can boost it with some equipment, or maybe give it flying with a Pegasus Courser. Unicorn and Pegasus Courser are best friends. It's a very good card. Honor Guard is just a worse version of what the Unicorn's trying to be. And the blue cards are all pretty bad here. Don't want to pay 8 mana for an 8/8. So Unicorn it is. Is Dominaria a fast format, or can you play slow? It's a relatively slow format. Of course, there's always going to be aggro decks. The blue-red wizard deck is probably the fastest one in the format. But it's definitely a pretty slow format, so kicker cards often come into effect. You usually get to 6-7 mana pretty consistently before the game's decided. So you shouldn't be worried about getting aggroed out too much, but of course, should still have a reasonable curve, since 2-drops are still a thing. Alright, so this pack's a bit of a disappointment. There's nothing good in white. Not a fan of the Serra Disciple. And there's no good blue cards that really fit into this archetype. Arcanist is an okay card if you're like the blue-red wizard deck with a lot of instants and sorceries, but that's not really what we're shaping up to be here. We're more of a creature flyer deck. There's also nothing I would really want to splash, since we're playing best of one, Appears the Sky, while normally a great sideboard card is not going to come up. I doubt we'll main deck Appears the Sky. There's still a chance we pivot into green for Shalai's ability, and in that case, Adventurous Impulse or Crozen Druid would also be fine. So I think I'm taking one of those, just on the off chance that we ditch blue and move back into green, or just splash blue with Surveyor. And between Impulse and Crozen Druid's a fine card, but also pretty replaceable. You've got your Sergeant in white, for example. That's, I think, just a better version. So I think I'll take the Impulse, helps us find our bombs like Shalai. Alright, and this one's pretty empty too, seeing a lot of red here, but they're all pretty bad cards. I mean, Run Amok is fine, but Frenzied Rage, Prospector aren't really playable cards. Cyclops is fine, mostly as a blocker. There's a Guardians of Koilos. Haven't played much with the card, usually have more than enough playables where we don't need the Guardians. And there's also Wall, which is a good blocker, but don't really have to put a high priority on those types of cards. So again, this pack probably doesn't matter too much. Can't really imagine playing a Guardians of Koilos, although there's a few combos with it. So would we rather have a Wall? I mean, I guess if we're kind of the blue-white flyer archetype, having a Wall on the ground to block is always nice. I don't think we want the Healing Grace, so I'll probably take a Wall, but I doubt I'll play it. And now we're seeing more black cards and a bit of red, but nothing spectacular left in the pack here. The card quality in Dominaria draft definitely varies a lot more than in, for example, Guilds of Ravnica, since there's a lot more kind of bad cards, if you will. So if you kind of struggle to find your colors soon, it could be that you end up playing some pretty bad ones. But that's just part of the format. So Soul Salvage and Confessor, playable black cards, definitely, but we're not really interested in taking black cards at this point. There's a Cyclops and Elemental. Cyclops probably better. So my guess is we should just take a Confessor on the off chance that we end up being in black somehow. Seems like the more realistic option here. Although could make the same argument for the Rampaging Cyclops. But again, probably not gonna matter too much. And I doubt we'll play a Zalfern Void, even in a 2-color deck with some fixing from Surveyor. It's always a little sketchy to play colorless mana, since it doesn't help you cast your colored spells. There's a Journey Mage pretty late here. Tolerance Color, actually begrudgingly playable in this format, especially in the wizard decks. Having that extra wizard is nice, and a 3 mana 2/3 is actually not that terrible in this format. So I guess I'll take it here, in case we end up not having enough playables, if we are blue-white. Seeing more late red, but again more Cyclops and some pretty weak ones. So I guess we'll just take the 2 mana 1/3. So we had a pretty good start. First picking Shalai, getting some good removal spells in Blessed Light and Reproach. Unicorn's great, Sphinx is great, but then the packs dried up pretty quick and we were left with a few bad packs with not a lot of good cards remaining, but that's okay. So this is all garbage. Befuddle's actually playable still, so I'm pretty happy to see it this late since it might make the deck. But it's probably one of our last additions to our deck if we do end up playing it. And well, if you open 1 Shalai, 2 Shalai sounds good too. Other great cards in the pack include Fight with Fire, one of the best uncommons in the set. If you get to 9 mana, this usually wins you the game. There's Tatyova, which is kind of called a mythic uncommon, if you will, since if Tatyova sticks around for a turn or 2, you usually win the game. And other great cards include Blink of an Eye, which I'm a fan of. Kind of protects you against those all-in aura decks that try to enchant a creature and you get to punish them with Blink of an Eye. Academy Drake is still fine, would be very happy to add it to our deck here. But it's going to be difficult to pass up on Shalai here. Just very efficient, the ability is powerful. And yeah, hopefully we can maybe fit in some green mana, but I'm not really counting on it. Alright, what do we have here? Alright, we've got some options. Some reasonable blue cards. Memorial to Genius, definitely the best memorial. We've got a Tetsuko Mizawa, which has some pretty neat combos in the format. If you've got some 1 toughness creatures with high power, making those unblockable with Tetsuko is quite strong. And Deep Freeze is removal. Not the best removal out there, but removal is removal. And there's a Jousting Lance as well, which I wouldn't mind if we end up with enough creatures. Verdant Force is a fine rare, but 8 mana is still pretty expensive, even though the format's slow. You don't always get to 8 mana, especially if we don't have any ramp. So I don't really see a reason to go out of our way to grab a Verdant Force here, even though we are a little bit incentivized to go green for Shalai. There's also Vicious Offering, but I don't think we're too interested in splashing black at this point. So an interesting pack. I think it's probably between the blue cards here. I don't think we have enough creatures to warrant the Jousting Lance quite yet. And between the blue cards, we already have a bit of removal in Gideon's Reproach and Blessed Light, but I could always use more. Plus Deep Freeze works quite nicely if we end up with a lot of flyers, since then we don't care about the opponent having an 0/4 on the ground. And right now we look to have quite a few flyers already between the 2 Shalais and Cloud Reader Sphinx. So I don't mind a Deep Freeze here, hoping to wheel Memorial, maybe Umezawa or a Jousting Lance. And what did we open? There's an Academy Drake, Mesa Unicorn, another Surveyor, to maybe solidify helping us splash. And with double Surveyor, adding some Forest to our deck for Shalai seems reasonable. So there's a few options. Would be happy with Unicorn and Drake as well. But Surveyor opens up a few more options as well. I would probably play a Weight of Memory if we get it, but I don't put a high priority on it. So I think I'm leaning towards Surveyor just to open up the option for Shalai's ability, especially now that we have 2 copies. And then hope to wheel one of these 2, or maybe even the Weight of Memory. So let's pick a Surveyor. And wow, that's a lot of Surveyors. Pretty surprised to see all these. Now there's also a Drake. There's Sergeant at Arms, but definitely not taking a Sergeant over a Drake or a Surveyor here. So again, it's between Drake and Surveyor. Now, a third Surveyor would make adding 2 forests to our deck pretty trivial, but I definitely wouldn't mind an Academy Drake. I think we might be at a point where we just want to take the Drake to make sure we have enough flyers to close out the game. Goes well with our Deep Freeze. But again, Surveyor would be pretty nice too. but let's take a Drake now. Alright, this one's kind of a miss for us. Although with Double Surveyor, we could maybe consider splashing some powerful removal spells in other colors. Don't want to go too crazy. There's a Fire Intervention here, which is potentially splashable, being a 5 mana removal spell that's only single red. There's an Arcane Flight too, which we could potentially consider as an additional way to make an evasive creature. There's a Bardic Wanderer if we need a random 6-drop. I don't think we are too interested in a second Impulse or Ancient Animus, given that our creatures are relatively small, even if we're splashing green. So it's probably just an Arcane Flight here. And then hope to pick up some Snappers, the 6 mana hexproof creature to enchant, to steal some games. Alright, Adamant Will is a reasonable combat trick here. There's an Opt as filler. Don't mind one Adamant Will usually in most decks. It's definitely one of the better combat tricks out there. It's also a pretty late Shanna. Could even consider Shanna on the splash, since it's still a pretty impactful card late in the game. And it looks like we're going to be splashing green for Shali's ability. So picking up a Shanna would not be unreasonable. But Adamant will for sure make our deck, whereas we're not entirely sure if Shanna's going to make it. Since playing a Shanna, let's say turn 5 or 6, once we find our green mana, it's not the best, but it's also not bad, since it's usually going to be like a 3-3 or a 4-4. Yeah, don't mind Shanna here. Alright, and Sergeant at Arms is a pretty nice combo with Shanna as well, making a few extra soldier tokens. Sapherd's the better card. If we were like straight up green-white, I would definitely take Sapherd over Sergeant at Arms, especially since it also has the built-in Saproling synergies going, and you get 2 bodies right away. But Sergeant's a totally fine card by itself, and given that we're just splashing green, don't really want to take a Sapherd, since this is definitely not a splash-worthy card. It's also pretty late Fire Fist Adept still in the pack. But yeah, Sergeant seems pretty good here over Bardic Wanderer. We might want one Bardic Wanderer as a curve topper, but I'm sure we'll get another random 6-drop. Would much rather have the Snapper, and wow. Another Cloud Reader Sphinx is excellent here. It's definitely a sign that blue is open. Would also love a Blink of an Eye here, but can't really pass up on a Cloud Reader Sphinx. So pretty happy with the colors we're in currently. Blue-white with a green splash. And Sphinx number 2 it is. And now we could consider looking at our curve to see. We're pretty light on 2-drops, especially Shanna is not going to be cast on turn 2 very often. So I don't mind a Knight of New Benalia. Invoke the Divine is a card you could potentially main deck, since there's a few powerful sagas, enchantments running around, and equipment as well. So Invoke the Divine is reasonable to main deck, but usually started as a sideboard card, but of course given in a best of 1, then you won't have the chance to sideboard it in. So sometimes it makes your main deck if you're a bit short on playables. But I don't mind having an extra 2-drop here, just to make sure that we end up with enough. And putting a Arcane Flight on a Knight of New Benalia can also beat down pretty hard. And maybe we can end up picking up a Pegasus Courser in the last pack. Or maybe a Jousting Lance would also be a good combo with it. And alright, there's a dub. Not a fan of dub, definitely been killed by a lot of dubs playing Dominaria draft. It's kind of going all in, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But it is a powerful card when it works, not gonna deny that. So there's a chance we play it. Don't have a ton of synergies with it currently, so it's not looking likely that we play it, but it's still a good card to have access to potentially. Again, Ancient Animus not the best splash card in our flyer deck, since flyers usually not the largest creatures. Not too interested in splashing a Curzon Druid. And I guess we'll pick a Tragic Poet in case we somehow end up opening an insane saga, but the white ones are pretty bad. Can't really imagine splashing a Gaia's Protector, but I can't also imagine playing a second Tragic Poet, so might as well. Alright. So going into pack 3, our deck is shaping up nicely. Wouldn't mind some Coldwater Snappers as curve toppers to enchant with Arcane Flight. Wouldn't mind some more 2-drops. And maybe some curve fillers here at 4 mana. And more removal is always welcome. Alright, and what did we open? Some reasonable white cards. There's also Divination in blue to draw 2 cards, which is great in this format. So Archaeologists, it's kind of a build-around card. We don't have a ton of synergies with it necessarily. Do have just the 2 Skittering Surveyors as artifacts. And not a ton of legendaries, just the 2 Shalais. There's Baird, which is a playable card, but definitely not exciting. It's just a good ground blocker, but in this kind of flyer deck, it might actually be reasonable since it holds the fort quite well. Makes it difficult for the opponent to raise since they've got to pay mana constantly. So I wouldn't hate a Baird. There's also Cast Down, which we could consider splashing by adding a swamp to our deck. But once we're already splashing green, splashing black starts becoming kind of a big cost. So I don't think I want to take Cast Down here when there's some good white cards. There's also a second Gideon's Reproach potentially. So there's a few good options. I think I would prefer one of the 4-drops here, Call or Baird, over the Reproach, just to make sure we have a good 4-drop here. And between Baird and Call the Cavalry, it's pretty close. Like, Call the Cavalry attacks a bit better, Baird blocks a bit better. And Baird combines pretty nicely with our flyers. Don't hate taking Baird here, since blue-white flyers is probably the archetype where he shines the most. Yeah. Like, I don't think the 2/2 Knight tokens on the ground are going to accomplish a whole lot for us compared to Baird. Especially when we're playing cards like Deep Freeze. So yeah, let's take a Baird. And what do we have here? Pretty bad pack for us. Some good red cards, Barrage and Skizzik. Thaladin Black. Migration in green. A Glorious Rebirth, not really a playable card, sadly. And in white we've got a Disciple and a Charge, which are both pretty mediocre. Don't think we're going to need a second Tolarian Scholar. Don't think we're going to need a Homered Explorer. So this is kind of a blank for us. Could just take the Explorer in case we need a curve filler at 4 mana. But I hope we end up picking up something better here. Again, not a fan of Serra Disciple. I mean, I guess we are splashing green, so Migration's an okay late game card, even though it's not exciting. Pairs well with Shanna. We're probably not giving up much by taking the Migration here. But there's a chance we don't play it. And what do we have here? Academy Journey Mage seems quite good here. Baloth Gorger, a bit difficult, even though we're planning to play green for Shalai. Double green on a 4-drop is going to be pretty difficult on a mana, so I don't think we can support it. Although we're getting to the point where we might just be green-white splash blue. In which case we can totally play the Baloth Gorger. Like if we change up the deck for a second. Yeah, if you look at this, we could totally be green-white splash blue for Sphinx instead. Might actually make more sense. We can add the Adventurous Impulse back to our deck. Still don't think we want the Gaia's Protector, but it's there if we want it. Yeah. I mean, a Journey Mage is fine too. But we could just pivot into green-white splash blue with double Surveyor to just splash a Drake, a Deep Freeze, and a 2 Sphinx. I do like me a Baloth Gorger. How many wizards do we have? If we do end up going blue-white splash green, we've got Arcanists, Tolarian Scholar, And I think that's it. So not too many. But of course at 5 mana Journey Mage is still fine. So this is actually closer than it looks. Like my first instinct was just slam dunk Journey Mage. But after considering things a little bit more, our deck might just be better as green-whites splash blue, since now instead of having to splash for double green on Shalai, we can just splash for single blue on some of these flyers. And it's not like we've been seeing a ton of great blue cards. So I think I'm actually tempted to take the Gorger here. Also, it fits our curve a lot better, given that we're pretty stacked on 5s with double Sphinx Blessed Light. So yeah, I think we pivot here. And did we get punished? Not really. There's another Academy Drake, which we can still totally splash. The green cards aren't amazing. Best card in the pack by far is Sheevan Fire, but we're pretty far away from playing that one. Short Sword is definitely a fine card, but shines if we have more 2-drop creatures, which we don't really have. So I think we're taking another Drake here. Again, could still be blue-white splash green, could still be green-white splash blue. It's hard to say. But I don't think we're missing out on much by taking a Drake. And now we're seeing another Deep Freeze, another Unicorn. I think it's between those two. Again, taking a look at our curve. I wouldn't mind a another good 2-drop. Unicorn seems good here. Also plays very nicely with Shalai. If we can put some counters on it, a life linking 3/3 or 4/4 starts becoming quite a threat. I think we're okay on removal now with Reproach, Deep Freeze, Blessed Lights. Although I guess we could still use more. I think I'm just leaning Unicorn because if we do end up green-white splash blue, I don't want to have infinite blue cards on the splash. So taking a Deep Freeze could be a bit detrimental, whereas Unicorn is going to be fine in either version. So I think that's the reason to take a Unicorn here too. Alright, well, we got our Coldwater Snapper if we wanted. So we could take a Unicorn number 3, which I'm not gonna say no to. Or there's a Journey Mage, so 3 very solid cards, which I would definitely like all of them. So looking back, I'm kind of regretting not taking the 3rd Skirring Surveyor, since that would have made the splash a lot easier, since we would have had 1 fewer Drake and we would have had 1 more Surveyor, which would have made it very easy to go green-white, splash blue. And now it's kind of on the edge. Yeah, we do have the Arcane Flight, but if we play Arcane Flight, then we're probably incentivized to again go blue-white, splash green instead of green-white, splash blue. Since you kind of want to be able to play the Arcane Flight early as well on a 2-drop potentially. Don't have any equipment, sadly. So it's going to be difficult to get through with our 2-drops after the first couple turns, which is where the flyers come in. Yeah, probably still taking the Snapper here. Although I would like a Journey Mage too. Alright, now we can take another Sergeant at Arms. Don't think we want a double blue Wizard's Retort. Don't have many instants either, so keeping up mana for a retort is going to be difficult. Candle is also playable, but I don't think we need it. I think our deck's good enough that we're not too worried about having a slow removal spell that costs a total of 7 mana. Sergeant seems fine. And, well, we got a Deep Freeze pick 8 here. Don't think we need a Pardic Wanderer now that we've got a Snapper. It's a very late Adelis as well, so Blue-Red Wizard seems pretty wide open. But I think Deep Freeze it is. So it's going to be tricky to kind of figure out our final build, if we're going to be more heavy into green or more heavy into blue. Do have 2 Surveyors as mana fixing, which are going to be very important to our deck. So let's take a deep freeze. So in hindsight, who knows what we could have ended up with. Like we could have had one more Surveyor, one fewer Drake, we could have had one Journey Mage over a Bale Scourger. We'll see. Alright, so I don't think we're splashing a Fire Intervention. Don't think we need an Ooze, but I guess it might be an upgrade over maybe a Knight of New Benalia since we didn't end up with any equipment or coursers. And there's a Partic Wanderer in case we need another random 6-drop. I guess I'm leaning towards a Wanderer here. And scraping the barrel at this point. If we somehow end up blue-white splash green, then the Explorer might make the cut if we're short on playables. Can't imagine needing another Tolarian Scholar. Have one in the sideboard too. So let's take an Explorer. And this one's kind of a blank. Alright, so we've got a pretty interesting deck build ahead of us, given that we're not even entirely sure after drafting our deck what direction to take it in. So let's have a look here. So first, let's just add all the good blue, white, and green cards that we can potentially consider. So I think they're all laid out already. So looking at our curve. Arcane Flight's not really a 1-drop. I'll put it in a separate pile here. Cadence Reproach, not really a 2-drop. Dub is sometimes a 3-drop. Deep Freeze, usually not a 3-drop. So yeah, looking at our curve, green, white, splash blue seems to make more sense. Since then we get to play early Migrations, early Shanas, and Bale of Scourger on 4 seems quite strong. And again, we're not playing many early blue cards. Academy Drake is still fine as a 7-drop potentially. Every now and then we're going to be able to cast it early. Might not play the dub. But yeah, I'm just trying to figure out here if we're going to be green, white, splash blue or blue, white, splash green. If we're blue, white, splash green, then Gorger has to go. Probably not playing the Migration. Impulse goes. And then we probably have to maybe add an Arcanist if we're short on 2-drops. So our deck would look more like something like this. But then the problem is we need double green for Shalai's ability, which is going to be a lot more challenging, so it's not going to come up as often. And I think if we can activate Shalai's ability once or twice, the game's usually over, especially given all the tokens we've got going on with Sergeant and with Sapling Migration. So I think I'm preferring green-white over blue-white here. But we still get to play most of our good blue cards, which is the good news. Mana base is not going to be perfect. Wish we had the 3rd Surveyor now. Adventurous Impulse kind of helps with mana as well. So I don't think we need the Arcane Flight in the end. Knight of New Benalia definitely cuttable, but we'll see if we need an extra creature here. Dub could make the cut, might not be necessary, since again we've got kind of the inevitability of Shalai. And with 2 copies in the deck, especially if we're also playing Impulse, we're pretty likely to draw one in a game. And then we just have Shalai as kind of inevitability, so we don't need to rely on cheap tricks like Dub to win us the game. So I think this is cuttable. Not sure how many of these we're gonna play. Baird seems good. Snapper's not amazing, but still probably fine. Not sure about the Partic Wanderer. So our deck would look something like this. 17 lands is probably still fine with Impulse and double Skittering Surveyor. Yeah, I think Partic Wanderer's cuttable, especially considering that we've got 6 mana for Shalai's ability. 3 blue sources plus 2 Surveyors, a bit light for blue, would of course prefer more mana fixing. Yeah, Shalai does combine nicely with Dub as well, since it can protect one of your creatures. I'm never gonna put a Navigator's Compass in my deck, unless I've got like 4 Zahids that I need to ramp out. But yeah, Navigator's Compass, usually not a great card, unless you end up with like a crazy 4 or 5 color legendary deck that's playing all the good cards. But I'm not brave enough to attempt that deck. So this would be 40 cards. our mana base is going to be pretty atrocious. Like maybe if we got a Baloth Gorger, it becomes more reasonable. I guess we could just be white, splash green, splash blue. Yeah, that might be okay with double Shalai. So we got the Gorger, making us less reliant on green mana early. Impulse might still be fine. Helps us find our Shalais. And so if we miss some green mana early, we can still potentially play most of our stuff. And we've got a bit more blue now, so we can more consistently play our Drake on turn 3. Maybe we go just 4-6 at this point. Yeah, this might be better. Alright, I think that's enough deck building. Let's just play some games. There we go. Alright, let's give this a shot. Alright, well. Definitely have to keep this one. Can play Unicorn and Knight. Any land lets us play Surveyor, which finds our green mana for Shanna. So looks like a pretty good hand. Alright. Definitely close between playing Knight or Unicorn on turn 2. Given our good late game, just padding our life total with Unicorn seems good here. And look at that, perfect mana. So, don't even have to play Surveyor if we don't want to. Could just play a Shanna instead. Yeah, don't hate it. So we can attack for 2. Play Shanna, which threatens to attack for 3 damage next turn if we play one of our creatures. And then Surveyor, probably getting another forest, so we have double green for Shalai if we draw it. Alright, opponent's got a pretty good start as well. Shanna into Pegasus. And our opponent's offering the trade. Think we can take it here. Alright. So I think I prefer playing Surveyor so we can keep hitting our land drops for now. Eventually we're gonna deep freeze Courser maybe, but don't have to right now. So let's play Surveyor main phase, pump Shanna. Let's take a forest. We might want to consider playing the plains to bluff a charge. I guess green also bluffs Arbor Armaments. Yeah. And I just want to gain the life with the Unicorn here. Alright, so opponent on green-white. Let's see what they've got. Nothing. Alright, so now we've got to remember all the instant speed tricks in Dominaria. So, of course, we know about Gideon's Reproach. There's the green pump spell with Kicker as well, giving +2/+2 or +4/+4 with Kicker. That also untaps a creature. Our play this turn could be Deep Freeze plus Knights. Opponent could also have their own Seal Away, but then they couldn't get rid of our Shanna. So I think our play is going to be Knights. And then just attack with Shanna. Don't want to attack with the Unicorn in case they've got Spore Swarm pumping Shanna and ambushing the Unicorn. I guess they could still ambush our Shanna here as well, which would kind of be bad. And I think we still attack with Shanna here. See what they have. Do they have a Spore Swarm or another trick? Could also have the Will, +2/+2 indestructible. Alright, that's fine. So we traded our Shanna for a trick, and we'll just say go for now. I think we'll keep Deep Freeze in hand for now. Next turn we can play a Snapper. Alright, Snapper's gonna make Shanna pretty big. Alright, so what's the situation like now? Opponent played a Sapper, they've got 3 cards in hand, could have a second trick here. At some point we're gonna have to pull the trigger on this Deep Freeze. For now we're probably just offering the trade a Unicorn for Sapper, which would also shrink Shanna. And we get to add a Snapper to the board. Don't really want to trade a knight for a token. And the life gain's pretty valuable here. Alright, our approach. Let's play a snapper. We're going to take some more damage in the air. But next turn we can deep freeze the courser and our opponent won't have any great attacks for a while. Or we could just deep freeze Shanna, but then we'll have to figure out a different plan. Alright, it's going to be a Gorger. Shanna now a 5/5. So this game could have taken a lot of different turns. Like, we could have traded very early for the opponent's Shanna. We didn't because we thought our hand was pretty well set up to take advantage of Shanna. Opponent's hand turns out to be better. And especially given that our opponent offered a trade, you would think that their hand would not be able to fully exploit Shanna, but it turns out it did. So it could be that they drew the sapper later. Alright, so hopefully they're out of tricks now. So what's our plan? If we deep freeze Shanna, then the courser and the Gorger are just going to beat us down. And I doubt we'll be able to outrace their opponent when they have got an 0/4 that can block our Knight of New Benalia in the meantime, or a 1/1 token. So we probably just deep freeze a courser. And then we might have to double block Shanna to get rid of her. Don't think we can afford to attack with the snapper here. And then just hope to draw Shalai soon, since we need something to help us out here. Definitely flooding out a bit. Alright. Pretty aggressive attack here, so our opponent has yet another trick. So they showed us Adamant Will, Gideon's Reproach, and they might have something else, since otherwise it would be a pretty straightforward block snapper on Gorger. But I think we're kind of forced into a corner here. I guess it could be a charge. Yeah, it could be a charge, in which case this block is still fine. Yeah, I guess so. Like, there's pretty low downside to double blocking here on the Gorger, unless it's like the +4/+4 trick. Like, we're potentially throwing away a Surveyor if they don't have anything. But if they have a +1/+1 effect, then at least we get to kill the Gorger. It was a Gift of Growth, so we got punished for double blocking. It's too bad. Well, our opponent had all the right tricks at the right time here this game. Not much we could have done, other than maybe using the deep freeze more aggressively or trading for Shanna early. Drake is okay. Trades for one of their creatures, but if they have any creature to pump Shanna, we're probably dead. So our mana situation definitely worked out. We made some reasonable plays. If our opponent finds a creature with Impulse, I think we're done for just the plains. Alright, opponent sends everyone. So we can block Shanna, take 5 down to 1. Or we could block Gorger, and they get to keep Shanna. I think we block Gorger, and then just hope that Shanna stays small. Makes it more likely for us, if we top deck like a Sergeant at Arms with Kicker, to potentially trade off for Shanna, whereas Gorger is going to be more difficult. Well, Gideon's Reproach number 2. Yep. So Sergeant at Arms keeps us alive, but that's not a Sergeant at Arms. Alright, GG's. So, yeah. Could have definitely made some different decisions. I'm surprised our opponent offered a trade with Shanna early in the game, considering they had all these tricks in their bag. So yeah, the game would have looked quite a bit different if Shanna's just trade. Then we can deep freeze the Courser, and our opponent will have a harder time leveraging their tricks. So it just goes to show that a small decision, a seemingly small decision early, can make a big difference. Alright, this hand looks acceptable. Won't be able to play Knight on 2, but can play Surveyor, get white mana, and get things started. And hopefully we'll get to see Shalai in action at some point, since it's kind of the reason why we drafted this weird deck. Let's play a forest. So we will be able to play drakes on 3 as well if we want to. Opponent on red-white. Alright. So Drake blocks Disciple pretty well. So our opponent has multiple 3-drops they're considering. It's going to be a Journey Mage. Alright, there's Shalai, so I think we just Surveyor, get our white mana so we can play Shalai next turn. Yeah, our deck can definitely be a little bit weak to aggressive starts backed up by tricks. If we can keep up like Gideon's approach at some point, then we can kind of blow them out, but... So, pretty aggressive red-white deck here, it seems. Yeah, I think we just jam Shalai and see what they do. Hopefully, it just stops the opponent in their tracks, but if they have any trick, any removal spell, they could play Kicked Sheevan Fire, they could play Fire Intervention next turn. They could Blessed Light. There's a lot of removal. So it looks like they just have a trick. Now we have to figure out which trick it is, and why they didn't attack with some of the other creatures. So if the trick was like a Gideon's approach, they would have also attacked with the Disciple, would be my guess. Could also just be like a damage-based spell that doesn't deal enough damage for the Disciple to matter, but like a Wizard's Lightning, they would have still attacked with the Disciple. Sheevan Fire they can play with Kicker now, so that doesn't explain it. So it has to be like a charge, giving +1/+1. It's the only one I can think of right now. So that's still reason enough not to block. So we're putting the opponent on having a charge in hand. So what's our play here? Can double spell, which is pretty nice. We can go Shana into Academy Drake. Add some more stuff to the board. Probably want to keep one Drake for Kicker, but that should work out. Next turn we can maybe consider putting a dub on our Shana, which can be pretty scary. I don't want to show them the forest yet, so next turn we can just activate Shalai as well, which is a pretty strong play. Probably better than putting a dub on Shana, to be honest. And I'm just going to play defense here. Don't think we're in a hurry to deal damage. Next turn we can just start pumping our entire team with Shalai, put our creatures out of range of any removal, and win the game from there. I guess Adamant Will could still be the one they have, since Adamant Will on Disciple is not enough. So yeah, it could be Charge or Adamant Will is the ones we're considering here. And again, I think I can afford to take 3, since next turn Shalai's ability will make all our creatures into even bigger blockers. And then we can just maybe block with the Skittering Surveyor. There's not that many sweepers in Dominaria draft. There's like Urza's Ruinous Blast, which requires you to have a legendary creature in play. There's probably another one I'm forgetting. Alright, so we've got double green, so we can activate Shalai. Is there a reason to wait? I don't think so. Let's just do it now. That way if they top deck a Sheevan Fire, they can't respond by killing Shalai. Just stay back. And now I'll happily block the Journey Mage. They've got another one. Down to 7, but at 7 life, still don't feel too threatened. But now we definitely want to start blocking. Can't afford to keep taking damage over and over. So yeah, Charge or Adamant Will. Those would make sense. I mean, it could also be bluffing this entire time, but it's definitely a convincing one. And that's also the thing about bluffing. If our opponent bluffed earlier, they have to kind of keep bluffing the same card, otherwise their story doesn't make sense. So now Tashar's attacking. Interesting. So if it's an Adamant Will or a Charge, then this attack with Tashar doesn't make a ton of sense into Shalai. So I think we're blocking it. Yeah. I think I'm fine with this. Alright, and nothing, so yeah. Called their opponent's bluff, and now we should be able to take over the game pretty easily. So I think we just activate Shalai once again. Could also go knight plus dub, but I think bumping makes sense. And again, don't feel like we are in a hurry here. Don't really want to trade Shanna for 2 Journey Mages yet. So could be that we're playing it a bit too conservatively here and we should be attacking more. But I don't really feel pressured to. Tiana doesn't really change anything. Yeah, they could still have a charge or Adamant Will, and maybe expected us to block with the Drake, not wanting to risk Shalai. But this is why trying to figure out which trick they could have can be very helpful in this spot. 7 mana means we can play Kicked Academy Drake, add another creature to the board before we start plussing with Shalai first. Adamant Will still makes Shalai a good blocker in the face of Tiana. So I think we can afford to play Kick the Drake here, add another creature to the board, prevent our opponent from going wide. And again, not in a hurry. And then at some point we'll turn the corner. Alright, Trapper can potentially tap down Shalai. But we've got plenty of good blockers. Alright, and what does a land accomplish for us? Now we can go Knight of New Benalia, still activate Shalai. Seems reasonable. Don't really feel the need to deep freeze anything. And again, I'm just gonna do it main phase. So is this a point where we start attacking with Shanna? Could be. Yeah, it probably seems okay here. Get in for 9, get them chum blocking. I think we want all the flyers back, since if they tap down Shalai, we want to be able to block Disciple and Tiana. So yeah, let's get in there. Opponent takes 9 to the face. Valduk is definitely a scary card. Can tap down Shalai. And an attack with everyone. Alright, so either they have a charge or they have Adamant Will, or potentially both, or some other combination here, but we're definitely gonna try and block as well as we can. So let's first play around the charge. So I guess we're dead if they have a charge now. So we potentially have to block differently. So 4, 6 comes in, we go to 1. And if it's just an Adamant Will, then it's still only 6 and we go to 1. So I think we have to block like this, only let the 2 power creatures get through. And if it's just an Adamant Will, sure, they kill a Drake, who cares? I think this is fine. Yeah, I think I'll block like this. And our opponent concedes. Alright, so never good to find out what the trick was. I'm guessing it was either charge or Adamant Will. Or they were just bluffing the entire time, also possible. But I think trying to preserve Shalai there made sense. But yeah, whenever your opponent plays like a giant bomb and it's bigger than your one attacker, then like 90% of the time if you attack with your creatures, your opponent's not gonna block since they want to protect their bomb. So that's kind of getting in free damage. But whenever they do call your bluff, it feels extra bad, since not only are you losing to their bomb, you just threw away a creature for no reason. But yeah, that just goes to show how deep some of the strategy can go and the mind games, which makes the game so interesting. It's definitely easier to bluff early in the game when your opponent's at 20 life, as opposed to when they're at 7 and they're kind of forced to block anyway. So you also have to know your limits when you're bluffing. And bluffing also usually only works if your opponent knows the format and knows all the tricks to play around. Otherwise, they're just gonna call your bluff every time. Alright, this hand seems okay. There's a chance we can flood out here, but hopefully Impulse finds us a creature. We've got perfect mana. And Unicorn's a good one to lead with. Alright, Shalai seems pretty good. Alright, another aggressive deck here. Could be a wizard deck. Surveyor's perfect, can get double green for Shalai. So we're gonna have a pretty beautiful curve here. 3, 4, 5, and 6 we can activate Shalai. So we also shuffled our Cloud Reader Sphinx back into our deck, which we put on the bottom earlier with the Impulse, which is good. Just a Scholar, so our opponent on blue-red wizards here. And a turn 4 Shalai is difficult to answer. So let's put them to the test right away. Our opponent will get to 5 mana, so they will get a chance to kick Chivan Fire or potentially deal 5 damage to Shalai with the other common removal spell. So we're definitely not guaranteed to get to 6 mana to activate Shalai. Sergeant at Arms is interesting. If Shalai survives, then playing a kicked Sergeant at Arms before activating Shalai, of course, would be nice. Yeah, because of the auto tap, it seems unlikely that our opponent has Chivan Fire. They could still have the 5 mana one. If we just want to activate Shalai next turn, then playing a Sergeant for 3 mana is probably fine here, so it starts growing as well. Get to keep up Gideon's Reproach. If Shalai dies, then of course it would be better to keep Sergeant for later. But I think we play a Sergeant here, and then keep up Gideon's Reproach, and I think I'll attack with Shalai as well here. Alright. So let's hope Shalai survives here. They could also bounce it with the Journey Mage. And if they attack, I'm totally fine using Gideon's Reproach. Alright, that's perfect. Love seeing that one. Can just kill it with a Reproach. And not too interested in trading Unicorn for Journey Mage when we were gonna start Shalaiing. Alright, so this game's almost over, I would say. We're gaining life from Unicorn as well. Not much our opponent can do. And that does it. Alright, well, quick win with Shalai, just showing how powerful she can be and kind of also showing why I wanted to include that many green sources in the deck so we could activate her more reliably, and why I didn't just want to do a very light green splash. Alright, so we're 2-1. Let's keep it going. Alright, well, having Surveyor in every opening hand definitely helps. Definitely not the perfect hand since we don't get to play Unicorn on 2. But probably still a keepable hand. Any third land lets us play Surveyor on 3. We're on the draw, so we're pretty likely to get there. And best case scenario, we draw one of our 7 planes I think we have. And we get to play Unicorn on 2. Have I noticed a trend in what colors the bots pass when drafting? Definitely not as broken, I would say, as Guilds of Ravnica draft, so there's not as many color preferences going around. So it's a lot more difficult to kind of exploit, if you will. Let's play Forest. Alright, opponent on blue. Alright. So what's our plan next turn? Could play a Sergeant, could play Unicorn. Opponent seems to be on mono blue, so could be blue-red wizards, could be some other variant. They could cast a 5-mana spell thanks to the Arcanist here, like a Weight of Memory. Right, opponent does nothing, works for me, and we picked up our best card. Don't really want to play it into 4 open mana. Opponent could easily have a Wizard's Retort, so I think we'll take it slow here. We're not under a ton of pressure, so we can afford to. Let's just play Unicorn. Right, nothing. Could bluff attack, don't think it's worth it. Still on mono blue over there. And a Sage of Latnam. Not the most impressive creature. Opponent still representing Wizard's Retort. Attacking with the Unicorn would just be trading it for a Sage. So not too interested in doing that when we have Shalai as a plan. So I think I'll just play another Unicorn. And wait for them to tap out eventually, and then we'll play Shalai. Alright. Definitely intrigued by the opponent's deck here. Another land is good. Although we don't have any great plays here. Since Snapper's a 6-drop, can't play Baird, can't play Kicked Sergeants. Although I guess we're missing white for that as well, so I think playing a Sergeant here is probably reasonable. Could start attacking with both Unicorns, trade one for a Sage, and start getting in some life gain points. It's probably reasonable. So we'll attack first before playing Sergeants. If the opponent taps out, we maybe get to sneak in Shalai. They might play around a trick. Could have attacked with the Surveyor to kind of signal a trick even more, but then they could just double block Surveyor. Alright, opponent's respecting a trick. So let's play Sergeant. Totally fine if they counter this. Yeah, our opponent's getting to the point where they can't just let everything resolve, otherwise they're gonna be too far behind on board. So they did have a Syncopate, let's see if they keep holding up mana or if they finally decide to tap out for a creature or something else here. Alright, we're gonna play the patient game. Got plenty of plays to make still. Right, you can have a juicy Cold Water Snapper. Difficult to resist. And it's going to be a Narumeha. Alright, so they could have totally ambushed both Unicorns here, but they respected the trick and so they didn't. So that worked out for us. Wasn't playing around the Mythic Rare Wizard here, giving other wizards +1/+1. So we got away with one. And double white means we can now play Baird. Unicorns can no longer attack. I think I'm still fine attacking with the Snapper here. I'm fine trading it with Naru. Could also deep freeze Naru, but we would prefer to play Shalai this turn. And they might continue playing around a trick. Just a chump. Let's give him a Baird. And then maybe could still consider deep freezing Naru. Maybe should have gone for the deep freeze first, since we'd rather have the creature to go with Shalai. Another Syncopate. Yeah, let's just deep freeze Naru. Alright, so next turn we can start attacking with everyone. They are definitely scraping the bottom of the barrel with Sage of Latnam. So who knows, they might just be mono blue. Arcane Flight, the Arcanist. Doesn't seem like a great plan. So this is probably gonna eat a counterspell, is my guess, and then we can play Shalai. Alright, finally. I mean, I guess their opponent gets to untap 3 lands. If they have a Wizard's Retort, they can still counter Shalai. So we'll attack first. If they do have a counterspell here, they get to use their mana efficiently, which is bad for us. If they untap and find a, let's say they play their own Snapper in a turn or two to block ours, Arcanist blocks our Unicorns, and then they have some powerful late game bomb that I'm not thinking about, we could lose the game. Of course, if Shalai resolves here, then the game's over. But for now we can just keep attacking with a Snapper into the Arcanist, and there's not much our opponent can do about it. I think we say go. Like, if our opponent wasn't mono blue, I would not be respecting this many counterspells, but if they're mono blue, they're probably mono blue for a reason, and they just might have picked up all the counterspells in the draft. Alright, opponent just plays a Black Blade Reforged and scoops it up. So yeah, opponent's deck was a little confusing, but I guess we didn't need Shalai this game, which goes to show that our deck can win without it, which is good. Yeah, they could also have their own Deep Freeze, totally fair, but in the meantime we would be attacking with our Snapper. And this hand seems totally fine. On the draw, so we're likely to draw some more lands, so we can curve Drake into Sphinx. There's Shalai. A little early, would have preferred some lands first, but not gonna complain too much. So the easiest way we lose this game is just getting mana screwed here. And one of the reasons I like Unicorn so much in this format is that the 1/3s in the format are all over the place. But if you attack a 2/2 into a 1/3 and it has lifelink, you still get an advantage every turn. Whereas the other 2/2s just get stonewalled and you don't get anything from them. Point on blue-black. It's always interesting whether or not to play Skinwitch on turn 2 or keep it for later. Opponent playing it on turn 2 indicates that they might have a powerful late game in hand already. Alright, so don't think we want to block the Thallid when we've got Shalai coming up next turn. So I think I'll take 3 for now. Alright, did not find the land sadly. Sergeant's still a good play. Think we do attack with our flyer. And we can double block Confessor here, potentially. Demonic Vigor. Alright, opponent's going deep. Alright, so if we double block Confessor, they kill Unicorn or Sergeant. We gain 2. They get Confessor back in their hand, and they can replay it this turn, which is not the best for us, but also not the worst. If they have Fungal Infection, double blocking would be pretty bad. Could just double block the Skinwitch here. Take 7, gain 2, so take 5. Kill Skinwitch for free. Yeah, this is probably better. Right, they've got nothing, we've got a land, we get to play Shalai. And all is good in the world. Alright, so which creatures are attacking? Unicorn for sure. And I guess Drake as well. I'm fine trading Sergeant for Thallid potentially, since we're pretty far away from green, so we won't be able to activate Shalai anytime soon. And then the plan is just to take 4 from Confessor and then can block the Thallid. But if they remove Shalai, then we might change our plan. Alright. Take 5 in the air. Do have a lot of flyers here, so I'm not too concerned yet. Unicorn can definitely keep attacking, gaining us some life back. So the question here is, what's our plan with the Confessor? Playing Knight after they block with the Thalid isn't great, since they'll be able to block our 3-1 with the token. So probably just playing another Drake. So are we trying to block Confessor, or are we trying to race? Given our hands, we probably don't want to be racing, since we're probably going to win the late game. So my guess is we take it slow and just double block Confessor. Sure, we lose Shalai, who cares? Alright, so I think our plan is attack like this, play a Drake, can double block Confessor. And our opponent did block the Unicorn, so that works out. Dark Bargain's fine. Alright. So we've got a double block on Confessor, opponent put land in Graveyard, and Evangel just a 2-mana 2-2 here. So double block on Confessor is totally fine, opponent doesn't even attack, Deep Freeze, perfect draw here. So our opponent's going to 1. We did potentially miss 2 damage with the Sergeant earlier, I think, so we could have potentially killed him here, but I guess we don't have to attack with all the flyers, but at 11 life I can't really imagine dying. Yeah, this seems fine. Settle the score, exile Shalai, but we've got 2 lethal flyers. And that does it, sweet. Well, didn't even get to 5 mana for Sphinx, but yeah, just playing some creatures and 3 for 1ing the opponent with a Deep Freeze was good enough. This hand seems fine. Alright. Let's run out Knights. Up against some white aggressive decks, Sparring Constructs, usually not a big deal. Alright, so let's get in for 3, and then don't have to play Surveyor since we don't have any green cards in hand currently, so probably just want to play a Drake, pretty far away from kicking it anyway. Opponent might have a Gideon's Reproach here, we'll see. Interesting, so they were okay trading 1 damage for 3 damage. It's a little confusing, but I guess they want to get more value from the constructs. Two-headed Giant. Yeah, whenever I face a two-headed Giant, it has double strike. Just doesn't have any text, just says double strike. We'll see what happens now. So we could just Deep Freeze it, then the Knight still can't really attack. We could play Sergeant at Arms, double block the Giant if it somehow doesn't gain double strike. Keep attacking with the Drake in the air. Don't mind developing our board a little bit first by playing... I guess Surveyor also works, can still double block Giant. And yeah, let's keep attacking with the Drake. Get our green mana. And the plan is to play a few kicked Sergeants, which are also going to do a good job of keeping back the Giant. So we're sending both. And Menace, that's the first. So we can still just double block it. A trick would kind of blow us out, but do we really care? Could also just eat the construct, make him use a trick on Surveyor, and then we can Deep Freeze the Giant later. Don't mind taking 4. If it was double strike, things would be a little more complicated. They do have Adamant Will, that's fine. So double blocking Giant would not have worked out. Alright, so now can attack for 5 and then probably just want to defreeze the Giant so we don't take too much damage, and then got kicked Sergeants coming up and kicked Academy Drake as well. So whenever you've got this many lands and you've got all these kicker spells, you have to think twice about just casting them without kicker, since you're going to give up on a lot of value. Alright, so do we tap our mana differently? This seems fine. Not too many answers for Deep Freeze that are often main decked. Opponent could have a Blessed Light, which is a common exile creature or enchantment, so they could... Yep, and there we go. Blessed Light the Deep Freeze. So if we get hit with double strike here, we could be in a bit of trouble. Looks like just 4 damage. So down to 9, but opponent's also on a 2-turn clock. And I think we would rather play Kicked Sergeant here just to have more blockers for the Giant. Instead of playing more flyers ourselves. Not too worried about winning the game, I'm just worried about making sure we don't die. And the tokens here are gonna help. But yeah, opponent using Blessed Light on a Deep Freeze is totally fine. Could have also used it to exile one of our creatures, so... Just a normal 4/4, so we could even triple block it here. Don't really have many reasons to. Opponent could have the Trample trick, run amok, +3 and trample. And if they follow that up with something else, we could be in trouble. A reason to just chump it with the token is that we could potentially just kill the opponent on the way back. But I think I'm gonna play it safe. Hey, thanks for the Twitch Prime subscription there. Runnyman, appreciate the support and welcome to the Loyal Legion. And yeah, opponent did have the run amok. So we're calling all the shots here today. And then Journey Mage, luckily no wizard to burn us out. So, what's our plan now? Drake can put them to 3, and then we can play a kicked Academy Drake. So we can present lethal. At that point we could also consider keeping back both Drakes, since we can just attack for lethal in 1 turn. Could also just play another Sergeant, kill them in 3 turns with the Drake. Then the Giants might take over. Could just play Sergeant and Drake without kicker. Those are the options. Don't think playing Sphinx is great when we can play kicked Drake instead. Think playing a kicked Sergeant's fine here. And just attack for 2. And then hope they don't gain menace too often, since now double strike doesn't really matter, since we can just chump block it with a token. So yeah, double strike on Giant. Of course, now if they had a run amok, we would be dead, but I'm gonna assume they didn't top deck another one. And then what do we do with the other creatures? Yeah, this is probably fine. They're still dead on the way back if they don't have anything. Alright, and our opponent packs it in. Sweet. So, managed to survive the Giant. Opponent did have the run amok and the Blessed Light, but enough tokens from the Sergeant at Arms were able to keep us alive. So we're 5-1, lost the first one, but on a roll now. And another victory without help of Shalai. We have 2 Cloud Reader Sphinx in our deck and we haven't gotten to play any of them yet. Alright, another opener with Surveyor seems good. On the draw. Love being on the draw with the deck, since we're definitely a deck that wants to make sure to hit its land drops and find the different colors of mana. On the draw I think we can keep. On the play this would be a little sketchier. Alright. blue-black. And opponent has multiple options, maybe a divination, maybe a creature. Sentinel. Alright. Sentinel is not too scary. If they want to spend their mana making it indestructible, fine by me. It's pretty inefficient use of their mana. We just want to buy time here since their draw's pretty powerful. Now I'm not gonna block if they attack, since dub plus unicorn is a potential pretty good strategy. Not great against blue-black when they're holding this many cards, since they're gonna have a lot of answers to it, but... yeah, I think we can just play a Sphinx for now. What did we lose? Oof, lost one of our Shalais, that sucks. Oh well. I think playing Sphinx is okay here. Opponent's gonna use removal on Sphinx, and then we can dub up the unicorn potentially. Alright, so don't really need a forest yet, but eventually we're gonna need it. But just drawing more lands here is kinda bad. I guess it helps with the kicker on Academy Drake, so it's not the worst. So I guess we'll put the Drake first. Next turn we'll play Snapper, draw Drake. I mean, I guess we can play around like a Divest by putting Drake second. For whatever that's worth. Opponent's playing some questionable cards, so they might have Divest in their deck. Alright, so opponent's got something. Fungal Infection would make sense here. So do we block? Knowing we've got a Cold Water Snapper coming up next turn? I don't think so. Could also be the -2/-2. I mean, we could block the Sentinel, but if it's -2, then the Sphinx still dies. I mean, the -2 is gonna get the Sphinx at some points. They'll have to sack a creature for it. And this is probably fine. Opponent just makes it indestructible. Anything else? -2/-2. Alright. Fair enough. Alright, time to play a Snapper. And yeah, dub plus turtle, pretty strong. So let's see if they keep attacking here. They are not. They're gonna say go. So I don't really want to attack with the Snapper. I think we'll just play a kick Drake before we go on the dub plan. Got a counterspell. Although with the Sentinel, they can kind of block the Snapper for a while until we use a Blessed Light on it. So opponent did have Syncopates. Yeah, still not attacking here. Alright. And a Dark Bargain as well to refuel. So yeah, opponent's got something going here. And we already lost one of our Shalais. Oof. Kicked Skinwitch. So that's unfortunate. They didn't play it last turn, so I was kind of hoping they didn't have it, but they might have drawn into it with the Dark Bargain. Alright, so what are we gonna need the most here? I think we're gonna need the Blessed Light the most. So we'll get rid of the dub and the Deep Freeze. And now we draw the land. That's unfortunate. Alright, we're in a bit of trouble now. Like, sitting back on Snapper when they've got 4 cards in hand doesn't seem like a great strategy, since we're just giving them time to set up. But on the other hand, racing doesn't seem amazing either. Probably just want to keep the Blessed Light for some random flyer, so I'll just say go for now. So even their opponents got way more cards than we do, we're still gonna try and play a longer game, hoping that our card quality from Shalai and our other Sphinx can deliver. But yeah, if they've got some more counter spells and removal spells, that's not gonna work. And oof, second Skinwitch. Yeah, that's painful. So now we probably just Blessed Light the Explorer instead of the Sentinel. Although Sentinel's gonna be an issue too. Yeah, Skin Witch is definitely a good card, and this is why. Alright, there's Shalai, that's a good one. So let's hope to top deck a forest and have Shalai survive. But our opponent probably has more removal in hand. Hopefully that removal just doesn't kill Shalai, although in black most removal spells will be able to. Another Vicious Offering, an Eviscerate will do, Settle the Score, Deep Freeze even. And they're gonna lead with Divination. And what's it gonna be? And yep, it's gonna be another Vicious Offering. Alright. Well, we're slowly making them use all their removal. So this is where drawing our kicker spells would be nice. We already went through one Academy Drake. We still have one Sergeant left, since one got milled. And one other Academy Drake. Another Sphinx would be a good draw. And yeah, both Shalais got dealt with, sadly. One got milled. Alright, let's just say go. Yeah, this game's not looking great. Have to hope that one of our remaining flyers survives. Or that we just overpower the opponent on the board. Do we have another Deep Freeze left? Yeah, we do have one more Deep Freeze as well, which could potentially answer the Sentinel. Opponent's got Snapper. If they've got an Arcane Flight, we're probably dead. There's a double green, but at this point it doesn't really matter anymore. Alright, well, it's up to the opponent to kill us here pretty much. If it comes to decking, if our opponent draws some more cards, they could die. If they have another Explorer, then we could die. Right now our opponent is ahead in the race, if you will, since we're gonna deck first. Another Sentinel, alright. Is there a reason to play out our lands? We've already got 8 in play. Do we have any card draw in our deck? Don't think so. Alright, let's just say go. Keep lands in hand for a third Skin Witch to protect maybe an instant we care about. Like a Gideon's Reproach. Presumably our opponent has some other powerful finishers as well here. But they can eventually get there with the Sentinels, I guess. At this point, mana efficiency doesn't really matter. Alright, let's play Kick Drake, I guess. See if they have another Syncopate or some more removal. But right now Drake's 3-turn clock. So if they can't answer it, they will be dead. Alright, cast down. Yeah, opponents got some mopey creatures with the Sentinels, but their non-creature spells are quite good. Double Vicious Offering, Divination, Dark Bargain, Cast Down. All first pickable quality cards, at least removal spells. The attack with the Skin Witch is... alright, that explains it. Otherwise the attack with the Skin Witch didn't make a ton of sense. Oof, okay. Well, our opponent found a way to get rid of our hexproof creature with Aldous Reborn. Sergeant a turn late. Yeah, we definitely got wrecked here. Opponent now gets to get back our Shalai as well. So this game's pretty much over. Well, that was a beating. Realistically, I don't think we have any outs. We would have to draw our flyer, find an answer to Shalai or whatever creature our opponent decides to get back with Aldous Reborn, which is not going to be easy. Got like a Deep Freeze and a Gideon's Reproach left. And at the same time we have to make sure we don't die on the ground. My guess is we have to chum block the snapper here. Alright, nothing. Let's see what we can find. Alright, Sphinx is a way to potentially still get there, but we'll see. So here we probably need to find an answer for Shalai, or whatever creature our opponent decides to get back. So Against Reproach would work. Unicorn doesn't do a ton for us. Alright, so our plan now is attack with Sphinx, Reproach on the blocker. I think we have to stay back. Opponent could also decide to get Cold Water Snapper. They could decide to, who knows, what else could they get? Opponent does go for Shalai. And a Deep Freeze as well. Alright, now I don't think we have any outs since don't have any flyers left. Both our Drakes got dealt with. The Sphinxes are gone. Both Shalais are gone, and we're not winning on the ground. Alright, GG's. Alright, that was an interesting game. Opponent disassembled our draw with the removal spells. And yeah, Shalai, while a great creature, still dies to Vicious Offering just the same as any other creature. Alright. Yeah, too bad we had to discard the dub there. Although the Sentinels would have been able to keep back the Snapper with a dub on it as well, so not even guaranteed that dub on Snapper would have really saved us. Alright, let's get our green mana. Up against the white deck, turn 1 Bodyguard, turn 2 Poets. So they might have some dubs in there. Let's get our Forest. Hey, thanks for the Twitch Prime there, Wilson91, appreciate it. And welcome to the Loyal Legion. Let's have some hype in chat. Welcome, welcome. Appreciate it. Alright, so it's red-white. Definitely happy to trade Surveyor for Bodyguard, even though we do have Shanna in hand. And yep, there's a dub. As expected, but now we can deep freeze, so that works out. Hey, thanks for the Twitch Prime there. Xikron, appreciate the support, and welcome to the Loyal Legion to you as well. Welcome, welcome. The ranks keep growing. Playing Shanna's nice, but playing Deep Freeze I think is better. And not too interested in trading 1 damage for 1 damage here. So, after seeing Poet and Bodyguard, we suspected dubs, and we got the dubs. So we have a pretty decent curve here. Sphinx into Shanna and Migration. Baird, do we want Baird? Baird lets us go Baird into Shanna, which is pretty mana efficient. Helps us hold down the fort. It's probably above average, I would say. Yeah, the Bodyguard's definitely a good wall, but our main game plan is to win in the skies. So not too concerned. Ooh, Varix. Good thing they didn't play it kicked here. But Varix is definitely going to be a challenge to answer. So let's take 3. Alright, so I think we start by playing Baird and Shanna. Play Migration afterwards. Force the opponent to start paying mana every turn. So we kind of stunt their development. And then hope to find either more flyers to double block Varix or just one of our remaining removal spells. Second Deep Freeze, Blasted Light, Gideon's Reproach. But we're gonna have to find it soon here since we're at 9. Shanna can definitely attack for quite a bit after we play Kick Migration. Blasted Lights on Baird. Okay. I guess they wanted to attack with Bladewing this turn. So this is not looking great. Sergeant, I mean, we're all in on Shanna, but our opponent has enough chum blockers where that's not gonna work. So would we rather Sergeant or kick Migration first? I think we go with Migration here. And I think we're attacking with the Sphinx since I don't want to be chum blocking Bladewing quite yet. Alright, let's see what they do. Yeah, if we just went with the Sergeant at Arms, our opponent could have potentially triple blocked. Oh, I totally messed up. Forgot about the Poet. Yeah, now we're just dead on board. Whoops. Yeah, that was a mistake. Would have liked to see what our top cards were going to be, to see if we had an answer for Varix. Not like we had a ton of removal left in our deck, like one Deep Freeze, one Blessed Light, and a Gideon's Reproach. And then the flyers would have been 2 Drakes, the 2 Shalais, 1 Sphinx. So we had a decent number of outs, around 10 I guess. So yeah, definitely threw that one away. Could have given ourselves one more draw step. Oh well. Yeah, totally forgot about the Poet there. So had a promising start, then lost 2 in a row there. It's too bad. I think our deck was okay. The mana seemed to work out fine. Didn't really have many mana issues. The Double Surveyor definitely helped. So yeah, pretty sweet draft in the end. Wish we could have won 1 or 2 more, but oh well. So I think that's gonna do it for today. Wanna thank everyone for watching. Thanks for all the new subscribers. Hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day. I also wanna thank all my patrons for being part of the channel, and you can become a patron yourself today and decide the topic of future videos over at patreon.com/LegenVD.